As football fans, we're allowed to have opinions on players. For some players, we already know what their max potential is, and for some, we don't. The thing I don't understand is how fans are drawing conclusions on the careers of the 2018 quarterback class. We've heard it all by now. Lamar Jackson can't throw and will never be a good passer. Josh Allen is just athletic and will never be an accurate passer. Josh Rosen had a bad rookie season when looking at his stats, so he sucks too. The three players I just listed were no older than 22 last season, but some fans already have their minds made up about these three quarterbacks, not realizing the fact that there is a lot of time to grow and a lot of room for growth. Let's start with Lamar Jackson. In 7 games, he started and went 6-1, had 1,201 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, almost 700 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now let's look at Michael Vick's first year as a starter and compare that to Lamar Jackson in the same amount of games. As you can see by the graphic, their numbers are pretty similar, but the outlook on these players is so much different, which is odd. Michael Vick was immediately praised while Lamar Jackson was immediately scrutinized. If you look at Jackson's 3 years of college, he improved as a passer in every season. So what makes you so sure that Lamar Jackson can't improve in the NFL? Jackson will still be 22 years old for this entire 2019 season, and I myself have seen actual comments saying Lamar Jackson sucks, which is laughable because he went 6-1 as a starter. How does that suck? But he still has time to improve as well. And let's not forget what his 2 losses were. It was at KC where they lost in overtime. Not many people won in Kansas City last year. Look how much Tom Brady struggled to do it. And they lost to the Chargers in the playoffs. It was his first playoff game playing against a quarterback who's been in the league for 15 years longer than he has. I think he fared pretty well for what he was put up against last year. Now on to Bills quarterback Josh Allen, who is the oldest of the bunch, who turned 23 in May. Some people may think Josh Allen is flat out bad, but I think we can all agree that he's very fun to watch. In 11 games started last year, Allen's stats were 2,074 passing yards, 10 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 52.3 QBR, 631 rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. Allen had the 26th best offensive line in 2018 according to PFF and didn't exactly have the best weapons around him. Zay Jones, Kelvin Benjamin, and Robert Foster were the top 3 targeted receivers in Buffalo last year. I'm pretty sure most 22-year-olds would fail with that kind of offensive line and those kind of receivers around him. And yes, you can argue that Allen isn't the most accurate or even consistent quarterback, and I'm sure Josh Allen himself would admit that he flat out missed some passes last year, and even some nice plays on defense that broke up his accurate passes have to be accounted for as well. The Bills' best receiver at gaining separation was Zay Jones, who ranked 78th in the NFL in that category. So between the bad offensive line, none of his players are gaining separation, what was Josh Allen supposed to do actually? The Bills did upgrade their receivers, adding Cole Beasley, John Brown, and Andre Roberts. He was close to playing with Antonio Brown, but we all know what happened there. After returning from his elbow injury late in the season, Allen finished up 2018 absolutely on fire. In his last 6 games of the season, Allen was putting up some really good numbers. If you project his last 6 games over a full season, it comes out to be 3,312 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, 18 interceptions, which you'd like to see lower, 1,296 rushing yards, and 13 rushing touchdowns. Those rushing numbers are probably unsustainable, but it shows you how much of a dual threat Josh Allen can be. If he ever gets the offensive line he needs and the receivers he needs, the sky is the limit for Josh Allen. He's 6'5", 240 pounds, so he has everything you'd want physically, he just needs to stay healthy. If I'm a Bills fan, I'd be real excited for this kid's future. Lastly, we have Josh Rosen, who was possibly in the worst environment for a rookie quarterback in NFL history. Those who have followed my channel for a while know I loved Josh Rosen coming out of UCLA. He had great mechanics, beautiful ball placement, the ability to make plays outside of the pocket, and is very smart. The landing spot and timing for Rosen in 2018 was pretty unfortunate though. The good news is that he was a top 10 pick in the 2018 draft, but the bad news is that he was scapegoated and ran out of town when the new regime came in. Rosen played behind by far the worst offensive line in football last season. He was sacked the 7th most in the NFL at 45 times, but only started in 13 games. Everybody who ranked ahead of him played in all 16 games, so that number for Rosen could have been higher. He also had Mike McCoy as an offensive coordinator who was one of the worst coaches in football, not to mention Steve Wilkes, who only lasted 1 season in Arizona as their head coach. In 2018, Rosen's stats looked like this: 2,278 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, a 26.6 QBR, which is god-awful, 138 rushing yards on 23 attempts. Once the Cardinals chose Kyler Murray first overall in 2019's draft, Rosen's time in Arizona was certainly over. The Dolphins, who seemingly had all the leverage in these negotiations, traded for Rosen, only giving up a late second-round pick to acquire someone who went top 10 overall the year prior. Even if it doesn't work out, it's worth the risk for the Miami Dolphins. Do you know who else had a rough first year in the NFL? Peyton Manning. I put Peyton Manning's rookie numbers up versus Josh Rosen, and even though Manning had 182 more passing attempts, there are similarities between their numbers. Similar touchdown to interception ratios, similar completion percentage, and QB ratings within 5 points of each other. This is not me saying Rosen is the next Peyton Manning, but let's not give up on Rosen yet because he was put in an impossible situation to succeed in 2018. It's not like the Dolphins have a great roster either, but they do bring 2 coaches from New England, and the Dolphins have one of the best young left tackles in football in Laramie Tunsil. Now, PFF does have the Dolphins' offensive line ranked last entering 2019, but it honestly can't be worse than what we saw in Arizona last season. Rosen has also had 6 new offensive coordinators in 4.5 seasons, so the guy needs stability. It's possible that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts the season, but that's okay because Josh Rosen's still 22 years old. I'm still confident that once Rosen's given a competent team around him, that'll carve out a nice NFL career. That'll be it for this video, and just a reminder not to give up on these young quarterbacks after one season. You know who else sucked in their rookie seasons? Peyton Manning, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Alex Smith, Eli Manning, and I'm sure many others. Don't give up on these kids yet, just give them time. And honestly, I know he's 25 years old and entering his 5th season, but it wouldn't shock me if Jameis Winston took a big leap this season, with Bruce Arians now as his head coach. These are talented quarterbacks, just wait for them to put it all together before drawing conclusions. If you enjoyed this video and want something similar to this, let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.